Hello, my name is Rick Manley. I'm the Director of U.S. Executive Compensation Research at Glass Lewis. I'm here today talking about executive perquisites at publicly traded companies. Now, you might ask, why are executive perquisites even in the spotlight? Because they're up, way up. From 2019 to 2024, total perk costs for the S&P 500 grew 41%. It's even higher in certain areas and in certain sectors. For example, total security costs are up over 200% for consumer discretionary companies and 700% for financials. Now you might say, but the price of everything is going up. Isn't this just another example of inflation? Well, inflation is definitely a factor, but it doesn't account for the growth we're seeing. And it's not just higher costs. Perks like security and air travel are becoming much more common than they used to be. For example, the number of S&P 500 companies that pay for CEO security has increased by over 40% since 2019. Part of the reason for all this is a more competitive market for CEO talent and the increasingly high-profile nature of these roles. More and more companies that used to treat security as a personal expense now view it as a way of helping executives focus on running the company and a competitive need when designing their pay packages. But at the end of the day, these are just perks. Shouldn't investors be more concerned with equity awards? It's true that the financial cost of air travel, security, or housing is usually pretty low compared to total compensation levels. But excessive perks can serve as a canary in the coal mine for underlying pay problems, and in some cases, even broader governance issues like succession planning or the power dynamics between a board and management. They also reflect changes to the way white-collar professionals work. For example, as companies wrestle with the issue of getting remote workforces back to the office, some CEOs are leveraging the situation, with boards agreeing to pay for special home offices or even private jets for the daily commute. While those situations are still pretty rare, these trends could ultimately impact pay standards across the market. In 2019, about a third of S&P 500 companies paid for CEO air travel. It's now approaching half the index. As that number goes up, something that used to be exceptional becomes seen as the norm, putting pressure on all other companies to keep pace. As costs go up and these practices become more widespread, investors are taking notice. Over the past few years, companies like Salesforce and CSX have experienced say-on-pay revolts that were at least partially linked to their perquisite spend. And in Glass Lewis's 2024 policy survey, more than half of investors said that perks were indicative of broader pay issues and could justify an against vote on their own. However, less than a third of non-investor respondents agreed, suggesting that this is an area where boards and shareholders may have very different perspectives. Thanks for your time today. For more on this topic, you can download our special report on the resurgence of executive perquisites. Thanks.